In the previous video, we looked at how to resolve a CSRF issue by disabling entirely inside our web application. But in this video, let's try to explore how to handle CSRF issue properly by generating a CSRF token on the backend and maintain the same by the UI for the further communications between the front end and backend. For the same, let's go to the same place where we disable the CSRF. Instead of disable, call the CSRF token repository, and CSRF token repository will accept any implementation that generate the CSRF tokens and pass on to the UI through cookies or any other approach. So in this scenario, I will try to take CSRF token repository, which is an implementation provided by Spring Security by default. We can go and see inside this class. Here, by default, CSRF token will be generated and will be passed on to the UI under the cookie name XSRF-token. So now we have made CSRF configurations on the backend side to generate a token every time a fresh request is coming from the UI application. With HTTP only false, we'll make sure the token or cookie can be read by our UI application. That's where we configured a sample token repository followed by and method, since we want to maintain these configurations also by Spring Security. Now we are set on the backend, but on the front end application also, we should make sure that we are capturing this token and passing every time to the backend so that all my put, delete or state changing operations will be successful as long as the tokens are same, which are being maintained by both UI and the backend. For that, I'll go to the front end code. You can see login.component.ts, which will call my login service to perform the login operation. Once I get the response, I'm saving the entire user details inside the session storage. Similarly, before navigating to the dashboard, I will save the CSRF token that is received from the backend inside a variable called XSRF-token in the session storage of my application. For that, I just have to call the getCookie, which is a utility method that I have written. It will look for the cookie with the name given for the method and pass the value inside that cookie. So once I have that value, I will store inside my session storage with the same name and its corresponding value. With this, we are saving, but the next step is we should make sure we are passing the same token for all the further requests. For that, we can make code changes inside our interceptor class, and we discuss interceptor has a method called intercept, which will be called every time by Angular when we are sending a request to a backend service. Inside this intercept method, let's try to fetch the XSRF token that we already stored inside the session storage every time and pass that value inside a header value so that the same value will be passed on to the backend also, since the tokens will be same both on the front end and back end. During the communications that are happening, the server also will not complain anything. Now I just pulling the value from the session storage and passing that in the headers with the header name x-xsrf-token, which is expected from the Spring Security. Now we made code changes both on the front end and back end. I'll also keep a breakpoint for your reference so that we can see what is happening when we're performing a login of the application and any further requests are going through the application. So I'm just launching the browser. Very first time I'm just entering the credentials and it will be intercepted by my interceptor, since this is making a get request to the backend to validate the user details, and since this is going very first time to the backend, our XSRF will be null and there won't be any header added. Now I got a response from the backend and we can see there is a cookie that we received and the value inside that is this value which I'm displaying. It starts with B94 and now I'm storing the data inside my session storage. If you go to the browser now, we are into the dashboard page. Now, if I click on this balance or loans, any of these sections, I should get a valid response since we are passing the XSRF token again and again for every request that is happening. So now there is a breakpoint stopped here, and since the request has been intercepted, it will try to look for the same XSRF value that we stored previously, and it will add to the headers. Since this is going to the backend with a valid CSRF token, we should get the response from the backend. Similarly, if you go and look for balance also, we should get the response. The same applies for cards as well. And you can see all the communication with the backend is happening seamlessly because now we handle the CSRF in a proper manner by generating a CSRF token. But now let's try to test the remaining services also. Like I have a contact us and notices. So notices, again, it is calling the database using get method and try to fetch all the notices associated in the database, and all those notices are being displayed here. But if you go and click the contact us, this is a put request, and since there is no security allowed for this contact path, we are free to access it even without logging in. So I'm just making an contact message to the bank by entering some details. Name is Madhan, email some example @yahoo.com, subject please connect with me regarding home loan. Okay, so as soon as I click send message, nothing is happening, and if you go and see, again we are getting a forbidden error. Let's try to look into that in the next video. Thank you and bye.